Good afternoon and welcome back to the Workbench. Today I'm just doing a quick introduction about this laptop. It's an Asus X550C. It's got a faulty panel. I'll turn that on and show you what I mean. First initialization, you get a green thing, and once you get an image on the screen, it's just 80% I guess pink on this lower portion here. So it's not very good. Once you boot Windows, it looks even worse. In the high resolution, you've got these sort of lines coming down the screen. It looks like a typical sort of panel failure. So basically, I'm just going to do a quick thing about replacing that. To start with, though, this is just a quick sort of thing because this laptop is a touchscreen model. It's got a Digitiser glass on here, so it's a bit different to other versions of the same model line which have no Digitiser. So taking the screen assembly apart is a little bit different and a little bit more annoying than you would otherwise have in some cases, but yeah, it's not very difficult. So I just want to do this just to sort of explain the difference. And then I guess after I've done that, I'll just skip the video forward like 3 weeks or something, and when I get the new panel, after I've ordered that, and things what happens. I mean, I need to open this first to verify the model number, obviously, and everything like that. So that's why I've done this part first, and then once I do that. So first of all, you need to I've already taken it apart, but yeah, I'll show what I did. So first of all, obviously, you want to take the battery out. Never have that in when you're working on things. Secondly, take this back door off. This thing on the bottom covers the RAM slot and the hard drive. Taking the hard drive out as well. So basically, all the screws you see here, you take those out, including the hard drive, the screws for the hard drive. There's 4 long screws that go here in these 2 positions, and on there. But the rest are all short, so that's fine. Just don't mix them up, obviously. Make sure all the short ones are labelled with an A, so it should be fairly obvious which one's which, but just in case you forget. But yeah, anyway, so do that. Take all the bottom off, take the battery out, hard drive, and the bottom cover, and then you can flip the laptop over and lift up the screen, and then you need to take off this keyboard and top assembly, basically. So that's just a sort of bunch of clips around the edge. You can easily get like a little spudger tool or a guitar pick or something, credit card even, or your fingernail possibly. Best to use something soft, so you're less likely to leave scratches and marks and stuff. Just sort of run the tool around the outside. It'll all just sort of pop off, and then you've got just 3 flat flex cables underneath here. One for the power button. Have to undo them. I found it easy to just hold the laptop upright like this. Sort of let the front fall off as you hold it like this, and then you've got access to the power button cable up here. So undo that first, and then do the touchscreen cable. Touchpad cable, and then keyboard finally. So and then that whole top just comes off. Once you've done that, you can unscrew the panel hinges. There's 3 screws on each side, little silver screws. Again, that's good. You don't mix them up with the black ones for the rest of the case. So yeah, once you take that off, take those hinges off. Lift the assembly out, and then you have to undo 3 screws at the bottom of the laptop lid assembly. So there's one down there in the corner, one down in this corner, and one in the center. They're right down on the bottom edge, right down here, so they're blocked by the case. So you have to take the whole lid assembly off the base of the case to get at those screws. They're covered by little plastic covers. You can pull those off with tweezers or something. They're probably not going to go back on because the glue on them, they're kind of papery as well, so you'll have to probably replace those if you care about the screw head poking out. Easy to tear. I ripped one in half trying to get it off. They're very, very weak. Not like my laptop my Lenovo T61, where they have like an actual little rubber and a plastic sort of cap that sits in a hole. It's just like a bit of black paper stuck on the top of the screw, so not very good really. So yeah, if you're worried about that, you either have to try and glue them back on again somehow or buy new ones. It's not a big deal though. Anyway, once you've got that, once you've got the lid out, taken the screws out, then it's a good idea to screw the lid back in, reattach it, then you can fold it down like this, and you can start sort of working your way around the back half. So basically, unlike the non-touchscreen version where the screws would be down here, this one is they're lower down, and you have to take this off. And basically, it sort of makes more sense. You take the back off the front. This back comes off separately, although it still stays attached with the hinges. You also need to take the hinge covers off too. They just split in half, the little clips, so those come off the top. You can do that with the laptop. Turn it upside down. You get a screwdriver in here and just flick those. They'll pop apart on the bottom, and then you can flip it back up. Open this and just pull them off the top. And then once you've done that, you can remove this back cover kind of from the well, I say that it's more that the this front bit with the digitizer and the panel and this front frame more sort of comes off the back. The back still stays attached with the hinges, but basically it kind of slides up, so it's best to sort of push down on this. You may need to play around with the bottom edge to unclip it. Again, run like a fingernail or tool or whatever around the bottom, but then this basically just comes off separately, and you can see that the two halves come off. So the back half stays on, connected to the hinges, and this front bit with the panel and everything comes with the front. So you do want to be careful. You see that comes straight off like that, and you've got the LVDS cable here. This is your Wi-Fi antenna on the back half, and you can take that off like this, and then it's just a matter of taking the panel out from the back. So it is a bit different. I mean, these hinge brackets to keep the rigidity of the back of the case aren't screwed onto the side of the panel like you would see, for example, on my Lenovo. This is actually glued on, I think, with double-sided tape around the edge. So you have to probably heat that up a little bit, maybe, to get it off. I'm not sure yet. We'll see. I haven't got the new panel yet, obviously. So anyway, this one is an LTN 156 AT20. It's a Samsung panel, but you know, go on eBay, you're only going to get generic replacements, which may not look as good, but unless you buy a second-hand panel, you're probably not really going to get anything else, unfortunately. So the only problem I can see with that really is, for example, with the one I bought, the colour kind of got a bit more washed out when viewing from the edge than you would with, say, a high-quality panel. But I mean, you know, even a cheap panel is better than a broken one. So I don't know. I mean, up to you, really. I guess, you know, if you're replacing one of these, do you get a second-hand one and hope it works, or do you get a cheap replacement and hope that it doesn't look too bad? I mean, they don't really look that bad. It's just, yeah, depends on what you care about, obviously. Yeah, so basically that's pretty much all there is to it. It is worth noting that, yeah, I mean, the Digitiser glass is glued on, well, taped, I think, on to the front part of this. If you are putting a tool in around the sides to undo the clips, and I think you don't actually need to do that, because that's what I tried originally and nothing seemed to work. It slides down. I think that's the way you're supposed to do it, so you may not actually need to, but just bear in mind, obviously, when I'm taking this LCD off from this front part, I'm going to have to be careful not to bend the front frame too much. because obviously, you know, if you bend this plastic too much, you could crack the digitizer. So you don't want to do that, obviously, unless the digitizer's faulty as well, and you need to replace that too. If you do want to replace the digitizer, I guess the procedure would be pretty much the same thing, except you have to unclip the digitizer ribbon cables, which come down here. I don't know if that's in the shot, but they're just down here. Flip them up, obviously, and those go through the front, and then you have to take the digitizer off the front by heating the top and the bottom edges with hot air, because that's where the tape is, or the sides. Actually, I'm not sure. I saw a video, it was on YouTube, of someone doing that. It wasn't very good. I'll link that in below if you want to have a look, but yeah. Yeah, he did it without actually taking the back off. He said the back came off while he was undoing the digitizer with the hot air, but I'd just personally do it this way, because then it gets it, sort of freeze it up, and you can work on it more easily. But yeah, so that's pretty much it. That's how you take the back apart. It's kind of annoying because you have to disassemble the whole lid and everything, but it's not that bad. I mean, there's only like 20 screws, and then it just pops off. So it's actually quite simple, but it is a bit different to what you might normally expect with other laptops. So just with this whole sort of digitizer thing, and panel is all sort of just stuck together with tape, rather than screwed on like all the other ones I've seen. So yeah. Anyway, so now that I've done that, I'll order the new panel. Got the number here, and yeah, I'll jump ahead with this video in 2-3 weeks or something, when I've received the new panel, and we can put that in and should fix it. Okay, so it's a couple of weeks later, and the new screen finally arrived, so I'm about to put this in the laptop. So I've taken it apart again, just like how I showed before, same procedure, and then I took the old panel out, this one here, with a little difficulty. It's basically glued in around all 4 sides to the digitizer, around this front edge, with 4 adhesive strips. So I found it was probably the best way to do it was to use my hot air tool at lowest setting, 160 degrees C, and just sort of heat up, blow sort of to the side of the frame, and just lift up. I lifted with one corner to start with, just with the flat screwdriver just on the end, got the sort of hot air under there, and once you get the hot air to get in between the LCD and the digitizer and the adhesive, you just sort of work around and just keep blowing hot air and keep lifting. You probably need to put, once you get one side free, I had to put the screwdriver handle underneath this, so to hold it up on that end, and then do the other end. Also, you can put something underneath, otherwise it'll just fall back down and stick back down again to the glue. So yeah, and I also had to take the LVDS cable off the back of the panel. It was glued on there as well, so I used the same thing. I just heated it with the gun and lifted it up, and the glue is much easier to take off when it's warm and soft. So now that I've done all that, I can put the new panel in, and hopefully it'll work. Well, I don't see why it wouldn't, but anyway. The 2 shorter strips on the outside actually came off on the panel, so I had to pull those off separately again, just with heating them and pulling them up. Now I've stuck them down here onto the front part, and now I can just lie this new screen straight on top, and it should be fine. So I guess the only real thing to watch out for that is just to make sure you get the alignment correct. Just take the new panel and take the protective film off the front. Actually, obviously don't touch the front, or you'll get it dirty. And then just making sure you got it run the right way. Don't put it on upside down. Stick it in. So I'm just going to get this in underneath the LVDS cable, like so. Oh, these little bits of tape are in the way. Let's get that down there. That corner lined up. Line up that corner. Set it down. And there we go. That fits in just perfectly. Put the LVDS cable back on, put all the adhesive tape, like these grounding tapes here. Need those obviously. And this cable for the Digitiser output. Plug that back in. And then put in the LVDS cable. Now I'm just going to push this in here. This one's got just a sort of a press fit contact thing, which is quite good. There's no little clips to worry about. So you just put that in there, put that tape down, and put that on over the top there. Oops. Oh, actually, let's just stick that up here. Now, make sure this cable goes in the correct guide spot, so it doesn't get caught in the in the back of the lid when you put it on. Make sure everything fits together properly. That looks alright. Now, I'm going to have to basically reassemble the whole thing. I've got to put the thing back on, get the lid back on, I mean not the lid, the keyboard and everything back on so I can actually power it up because it has the power button in it. So, I don't know, should I bother showing that? And there we go. The front part is back on, and now we can get that down. Make sure you clip that down before you try to close the lid. And now we can do a quick test. So I don't need the hard drive or anything like that for that. Don't need any screws really. We can just put the battery back in as it is. And if I turn it on now, the screen is fixed. No more pink lines, as you'd expect. I don't think the touchscreen works in the BIOS, so I have to boot Windows first to verify that still works and everything, and then check the webcam and all that. But yeah, there we go. So it's a little bit tricky to do this one, like I said, with the adhesive all around the edges, but it does work once you get through that. Like I said, hot air tool, very invaluable for this kind of thing. But there we go. Okay, so I'll turn it off now because there's no point to doing that, and I'll put it back together fully, and then we can yeah, well, that's probably it, but I'll just go into Windows and check the touchscreen and everything, make sure that all still works. So let's see, we have short screws and long screws. The short screws go into the holes marked A. And the long screws go into the unmarked holes. Such as these two here, and then the ends two here, which are through the back of this cover, and there's actually one screw missing when I got this to work on, so that doesn't matter, that's not my fault. But yeah. Quite simple, all the screws are easy to figure out. Just again, make sure you don't put any long screws in a hole marked A, or you will probably cause damage somewhere. If it's a choice of, like I said, there's only three screws here, so if it's a choice of the back ones here or the front ones here, it makes sense to go for the back because that's where the hinges are, so that's where you need the most rigidity on the case. 1 second while I go find my cleaning cloth, and then I'll be back to test Windows and make sure everything works, which I'm sure it will, but yeah. Okay, now I'm back with my cloth, so I'll just clean this up. Got this one here from Warehouse Stationery, it's pretty good. It's the cheapest you can get without having to buy a brush and a cloth again, because most of the kits have tiny little bottles and you have to buy this again, it's pointless. Anyway, yeah, so there we go. Let's just clean this up. Let's see, problem with touchscreens is they get all covered in finger marks from use. They're kind of designed to get dirty. It's a bit silly, really. That looks a lot better than it did. And now I can go and turn it on and grab it and stick finger marks all over it again. Oh well. It's just how these things go. What to do with an old LCD panel? Nothing really useful to do with that, is there? You could just scavenge the EEPROM off it, maybe, if it's got one. Yeah, I think it does, down there. You could pinch the backlights out of it for some reason. You could steal the polarizer sheet to have some fun with. I don't know. Anyway, let's see. Make sure the thing works. Does it work? We can click, we can drag. Let's see, oh, it's just lagging. Hang on. Let's wait for everything to load. Yeah, I think this thing needs a reinstall of Windows at some point. So I should probably not bother wasting hard drive space recording all this. Uptime 17 days? How is this 17 days uptime when I've just restarted it? Anyway, I mean, yeah, this touchscreen still works. Thing's still functional. That, there we go. So that's fine. Yep, that all works. That's good. That's what you'd want. And if I can say, and going by the fact we've got this microphone bar here going up, then the microphone should still be working. The light for the camera comes on, so yep, everything seems good. So LCD works now, didn't before, and everything else still works. So that sounds good to me. So that looks like a successful fix. So there we go. That was a faulty LCD panel in a Asus X550C, and I've replaced it with a new one I got from eBay, and the computer works again. No more pink lines down the screen and no more junk. So that looks good. So I'll see you next time. Oh, battery's flat.